Let's bring you up to date with the speech that we're going to be talking to Alex Salmond in just a few moments, but first we're going to do that now. Right. The First Minister of Scotland, Alex Salmond, joins us now from Scotland. You will be aware that David Cameron made a speech a little earlier today to make his case for how Scotland and the United Kingdom are better off together. Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And members of your party have been quite critical, particularly about the venue of David Cameron's speech this morning. But the Olympics was a brilliant symbol, wasn't it, of just what can be achieved as Great Britain united together.
I think the point that was being made is that members of Better Together have been attacking or suggesting there should be no attempt to politicise the Commonwealth Games, which we've been running for the last 6 years, in terms of the run-up to the contest where Scotland takes part as an independent country in the Commonwealth Games. But now, of course, David Cameron goes to the Olympic Stadium to politicise the Olympic Games of 2 years ago. I mean, if I went to Hampden to make a political speech, then I'm sure that the Better Together campaign would be jumping up and down. But I actually think the main thing isn't that. The main thing is that this is a speech delivered from London, ostensibly telling people in England what to do, but actually arguing against Scottish independence. Instead of a debate that the Prime Minister must do in Scotland, a debate with me as First Minister of Scotland about the pros and cons of his argument against independence. And the chance is there because 2 weeks on Monday, he's bringing the UK Cabinet to Dice here in Aberdeen. I've got the Scottish Cabinet on the same day in Portleffen, 10 miles away. You know, the studio's here in the BBC in Aberdeen. Okay. Let's have that debate. Instead of having a sermon from Mount Olympus, let's have a democratic debate in this television studio 2 weeks on Monday, and let's make it game on.
OK, well, let's just talk about today's speech first, before we get 2 weeks ahead of ourselves. He made it very clear that he was talking to the people of Wales, of England and Northern Ireland, so it would have been quite bizarre, would it not, to go to Aberdeen or Glasgow to make a speech when he's talking not to the people of Scotland, but to the people of the rest of Great Britain.
Well, you should look at the own headline on the BBC online copy. You know, Cameron tells Scots to stay. That's what the BBC interpretation of the speech is.
He's saying we want Scotland to say, not telling them what to do. Well,
no, I'm referring to your own online copy. I mean, obviously, this is a speech directed at the people of Scotland and against independence. Now, incidentally, I've got no problem whatsoever. I've made speeches in Newcastle, in London, in Liverpool in the last few months about Scottish independence, and I very welcome all views on Scottish independence. I just want the Prime Minister to come and debate with me and stop being such a big fearty.
Well,
in terms of what the people of England are going to say about this, let's say you were in the Somerset Levels at the present moment and heard your Prime Minister say your priority must be to phone up your friends in Scotland and tell them to vote independence. I think folk in Somerset are more likely to phone up Downing Street, tell the Prime Minister to get his wellies on and come and help them instead of neglecting them, which he's been doing since Christmas. So I don't think this is a Prime Minister who speaks for Britain. I don't think he speaks for England. I think he speaks for a Westminster elite who are totally and utterly out of touch.
But, I mean, if you are on the Somerset Levels and your Prime Minister was in Scotland at the moment, you might be quite cross about that. Let's just talk about the questions that came out.
Indeed, that's exactly the point I'm making. I'm saying that David Cameron's priority since Christmas, instead of being fast asleep at the wheel, should have been dealing with the huge problems that the suffering people in Somerset have at the present moment, as opposed to lecturing Scotland, or for that matter, telling people to phone up Scots and vote against independence. If he wants to enter into a debate, then let him come and have a democratic debate in Scotland. And in the meantime, why doesn't he attend to his own duties and help the people of Somerset and give them a decent deal as opposed to being stuck in London?
In terms of the democratic debate, he is not the leader of the Stay Together campaign, is he? That's Alistair Darling, so surely the debate should be between yourself and Alistair Darling. Let's just go back to the speech and the questions that came afterwards.
Can I answer that point precisely? He's the Prime Minister, I'm the First Minister. I'll willingly debate with anybody as long as we have that first debate. Now, the reason for it is quite obvious. If I want to say about, let's say, the bedroom tax and demand to know from David Cameron why he thinks the bedroom tax is a good idea to impose upon the Scottish people, nobody else can explain that. Nobody else can explain that. They can say they're against it as well, but David Cameron would have to explain it. If I say, what did you mean in your question-answer session today when you said that further devolution could emerge if there's a no vote. Alistair Darling can't say anything about that.
But this is bigger.
Only David Cameron can say something about that because he's the Prime Minister. Now, there's no way around this.
At the
overwhelming
moment,
majority
though,
of the people of Scotland want to see that debate.
Than Alex Salmond and David Cameron. You happen to be the First Minister of Scotland at the moment. He happens to be the Prime Minister of Britain at the moment.
Which is why there should be a debate.
This is about the yes campaign and the no campaign, because you won't necessarily be forming the next Scottish government, nor will he the next British government. So this is a debate between the yes campaign and the no campaign.
Yes, and the leader of the no campaign, which you may not be aware of, is the former Labour MP is Alistair Darling, and the leader of the yes campaign is the former Labour MP Dennis Canavan. They are the leaders of the respective campaigns. I'm suggesting there should be a debate between the Prime Minister, who wants to intervene in this argument but not debate, as Prime Minister, given his responsibilities, and the First Minister of Scotland were given my responsibilities. The people who are articulating the case for yes and for no, that should be the debate. And that is supported by the overwhelming majority of people in Scotland, and indeed the majority of people in England, who now accept and are accustomed to the idea that there should be democratic debates. Incidentally, the BBC supported the idea of television debates in the last general election campaign.
Just a final point. One of the questions that came out was from a woman who works in cashmere and textiles manufacturing, and she was sort of making the point that actually at this time when things have been so tough for business, would it not be better that Britain was working as a whole to promote great British textiles abroad ahead of people like France or those further afield, rather than setting up against each other?
Well, we have an organisation called Scottish Development International, which promotes Scotland internationally. Our record in inward investment and in exports is outstanding. It's far better, actually, than the UK as a whole. We believe that's because we promote the excellence of our products through that Scottish identity. And what I would argue to people elsewhere in these islands is concerned, that they should look for that increased autonomy as well, because that gives them a semblance of economic control. And it's quite significant, incidentally, that since Wales and Northern Ireland followed the path that Scotland has over the last couple of years in terms of inward investment attraction, they've also seen a boost in their inward investment. This idea of centralising things in London is, well, it's maybe good for London, but it's no hope for the rest of the country, which is why I think many people across England, across Wales and across Northern Ireland understand our wish in Scotland to run our own affairs, to benefit our own economy, to get rid of nuclear weapons, not to have the bedroom tax, and basically David Cameron, who's imposing a range of policies in Scotland that we never voted for, is actually, whether he likes it or not, the embodiment of why people should vote yes in September.
Alex Salmond, good to talk to you as always. Thank
Great
you very
pleasure.
much indeed.
Thank you.